It's a rainy day in Southeast Florida. You can see that the courts are absolutely soaked, and this is the perfect atmosphere to talk about one of the saddest events in the history of tennis, and that is the fact that Roger Federer has officially retired. And in today's video, I want to talk about the effect that Roger Federer has had on me personally. But first, I want to talk about something that I discuss quite frequently, and that is, when is the best time for legends in different sports to retire? Is there such a thing as a perfect retirement? And yes, there is. For example, Pete Sampras. There's no better way to go out than the way Pete did by beating Agassi in the final of the US Open and calling it quits. I think all the greats, all the GOATs want to go out that way, but sadly it is often not possible, because you got to understand that the greats have a burning desire inside of them to continue to compete, and that desire never really goes away. And the perfect example is Michael Jordan. See, I was a huge Chicago Bulls fan, and Michael Jordan was by far my favorite player. And when he came back to play for the Washington Wizards, he wasn't really the same player that he was in his prime. Nobody's going to argue about that. He still played well, but he wasn't the same guy. And you can ask the question, would it have been better for Michael Jordan's career to not have played for the Wizards, to retire at his best by winning the NBA championships and defeating the Utah Jazz, making that game-winning shot? Of course, nobody's going to argue that this is the better way to go out. But Jordan had that burning desire inside of him to come back again and try again, and nobody is going to hold that against him, and nobody is going to think less of him as a basketball player because he came back. Now let's transition into Roger Federer. You can make a similar argument. Maybe Roger should have retired in 2019 or 2020 when he was still at the top of the game. He came back in 2021 and wasn't the same player. Maybe he should have called it quits before. But I'm here to tell you that the circumstances in the last 2 to 3 years have been quite unique, and I'm going to explain to you why there was really no opportunity to Federer to call it quits sooner. So if you take a look at Roger Federer's results in 2019, he had a phenomenal season. He was still a contender to finish the year ranked #1. I can tell you all his results. I got them memorized. He won the tournament in Dubai, which is a 500. Then he goes to Indian Wells, reaches the final, loses to Dominic Thiem. Then he goes to Miami, wins Miami. Then listen to this. He goes to the French Open and makes the semifinals. In 2019, he makes the semifinals on clay at the French Open. Then he goes to Halle, wins that. Then he goes to Wimbledon, reaches the final, and was super close to beating Djokovic and winning Wimbledon. Then he didn't play too well at the US Open. Indoor season, he wins Basel, and then at the ATP Finals, he takes out Djokovic in a round robin. Now in 2020, he goes to the Australian Open and makes the semifinals where he loses to Djokovic. Now we all know what happened in 2020. Tennis was shut down. And this is where things get complicated for Roger Federer, because not only was tennis shut down and he wasn't able to play because he was on fire. He was playing super well. He was still in the top 3, a contender to win Grand Slams. But unfortunately, there was no tennis happening that year. And on top of that, he got hurt. So Roger Federer was forced to take a year and a half off. He came back in 2021 at the tournament in Geneva, where he played Pablo Andujar on clay. And I watched that match, and this is the first time I saw Federer playing at a level that was way below his regular level. So the fact that Federer was forced to take a year and a half off, I think hurt him tremendously. And then he went on to play Wimbledon. He played a couple other tournaments in between. And at Wimbledon, which is his last tournament that he played, he made it to the quarterfinals, where he lost to Hubert Hurkacz. So I don't think there was any opportunity to go out like Sampras for Roger Federer, because like I said, he was on top of his game prior to the pandemic. And if the pandemic would have never happened, I think Roger Federer would have continued to play well. Of course, yes, he got injured and that complicated things. So I don't think Federer did anything wrong. He did everything right. The body did not allow him to continue to play. And it is what it is. It would have been nice for Federer to go out like Sampras, but that is something that's super difficult to do. And now let me tell you how Roger Federer has personally impacted my life. Now, first of all, Federer brought a lot of joy and entertainment to my life. I'm gonna be honest with you, I was extremely bored with tennis after Pete Sampras, because I was a huge Pete Sampras fan. Yes, I was an Agassi fan as well, but when Sampras played Agassi in the US Open final, I was rooting for Sampras. And when he quit, there was a period of time where I wasn't too much interested in tennis. And then in 2003, Federer started playing really well. And all of a sudden, wow, there's a new guy on the block. And then a year later, another guy comes on the block named Rafael Nadal. And now we have by far the greatest rivalry in the history of tennis. And I gotta tell you, those matches were so fun to watch. All those clay court finals that they played against each other, where the level was unbelievably high. And my favorite match of all time was the Wimbledon final when Rafael Nadal won his first Wimbledon in 2008. I was so nervous during that match, I didn't even watch it. I remember that I started driving around with my car and I was tracking the results on my phone. I was so emotionally invested into this match that I couldn't bear to watch it live. And this is why I'm thankful for Roger Federer to bring this joy into my life. So many great matches, so many great memories. And quite frankly, what do we watch tennis for? Is to be entertained. And watching Roger Federer play Rafael Nadal is the ultimate entertainment and is, in my opinion, the absolute best rivalry that tennis has ever had. Another way Roger Federer impacted my life was with his fashion. And I'm going to tell you a story. Back when I worked in Hawaii, this is going back almost 20 years, and I used to buy all the Federer clothes. I'm a huge Nike fan. I'm especially a fan of the Nike clothes that Roger Federer was wearing. And actually a lot of people were confusing me for Roger Federer. Now, I don't think I look like Roger Federer, but I couldn't tell you the amount of times that I got, hey, you look like Roger Federer. And I think it was more of the fact that I was wearing his clothes than the way I look. And why do I like his clothes? Because Roger Federer has an incredible sense for fashion. In my opinion, he is the most stylish tennis player of all time. The only other guy that comes close is maybe Bjorn Borg. And I wasn't mad at Federer when he switched to Uniqlo. You can see here I'm wearing his Uniqlo clothes, and I will continue to wear his Uniqlo clothes if he continues to put them out there for purchase. Now finally, and most importantly, because this is a tennis coaching channel, Roger Federer has impacted the industry of tennis coaching more than any other player in the history of the game. And when we talk about Roger Federer's elegance with his fashion, we can directly transition into his elegance on the court. There's never ever been a player that's more elegant than Federer. The way he hits his backhand, the way he hits his forehand, the way he hits his serve, the way he moves around the court. He is the essence of elegance. And of course, logically, a lot of coaches want to teach their students to play like that, and logically a lot of the Federer fans want to play like that as well. Now me as a coach, I can tell you that you're going to have a hard time playing like Federer, and Federer himself has said on many occasions that nobody should try to copy the way he plays, because while that style comes natural to him, it might not come as natural to the vast majority of other players. And I couldn't tell you the amount of times when a new student would come to me that he would pull out the Federer forehand, the Federer backhand, or the Federer serve. I would say out of 10 students, at least 5 would have one stroke of Federer that they try to adapt, which goes to show you that there has never ever been a player that is more impactful with his fan base as Roger Federer was. Me as a Rafael Nadal fan, I know that Rafa has a big fan base as well. But I understand that Roger Federer's fan base is much bigger, and I'm going to tell you why. While a lot of people love Rafa, I think more people can identify with the elegance of Federer. They'd rather be like someone who's cool, because Federer has this coolness about him when he plays, while Rafael Nadal is a worker. And people don't necessarily want to emulate the guy who's working his butt off, but they want to emulate the guy where everything comes easy to him. And that's another reason why Federer is so loved by many fans across the globe. So with this video, I want to express my gratitude to Roger Federer. He has brought a lot of joy into my life, and it's truly a sad day but it's a natural thing that happens with athletes. They cannot play forever. And the other two GOATs, Djokovic and Nadal, are going to retire as well. And now it's up to the next generation to try to be as cool as Roger.